we see a gorgeous girl with bright, beautiful red eyes, calling out the name Inori. As she stretches out her hand to reach him, touching his face in a loving way, the boy in question wonders who she is. Still trying to figure out her identity, blood splatters. The boy, in shock, looks at the girl whom has stabbed him, as she wore a teary face, letting go of the weapon she stabbed him with. Did she just stab me? Why is she crying? How does she know my name? Thought the boy, moving over to a classroom, where groups of students discussed and laughed. We get introduced to our MC, Inori Takafuji, 17 at age, looking dazed, as he wonders if that was a dream. Surely must be a bad dream to be having on a school day. It was just a normal school day, and nothing was out of the ordinary. Suddenly, purple light teleportation seal lit up the classroom. As the student looked towards it, both startled and surprised, before anyone can complain. A bright light flashed the entire classroom, forcing the students to close their eyes as they are being teleported. Upon opening their eyes, found themselves in plane, as the MC notices that they're no longer in the classroom. The students freaks out, anxious about where they are. Just then a descending lady told them to be at ease, informing them they're present at the world's rift, responsible for the crossing of souls, admitting she's someone whom they refer to as goddess, relaying to them they're being summoned by the other world as heroes to vanquish the demon lord. The students, on hearing their roles as heroes, exclaimed in excitement. The goddess, continuing her explanation, informed them their souls will be teleported to the kingdom of Hygen, a nation of swords and sorcery. Moving over to our MC, with a calm face, noted, everything happening seems to be like those of the stories he has read, clenching the book he has been reading all day. The goddess spoke again, informing the students that their meeting is momentary, as time for their teleportation is drawing close, but before that she will grant them gifts benefiting their new destination. Stretching out her hands, as the holy power flows towards the students, she recites, "May you resist the temptation of power, and walk through the path of the righteous, the guiding light and the favored by fortune." Coming over to a castle, where our heroes seems to have been teleported, a lady in a priestess cloth, exhaling like she ran a marathon, informed the council she had successfully summoned the heroes. Overjoyed, praised the saintess for a job well done, believing they're saved. In the midst of the celebration, a voice ordered the council to be silent. We get to see whom has ordered the silence of the council. Turns out to be the king. Walking towards the heroes, greets them, welcoming them to their world with utmost gratitude. Introduces himself as Ryzen Hygen, the king of the land of Hygen. Drops to his knees. So does his other council members, urging the heroes to defeat the demon king for them. Leaving the students short of word, not knowing how to respond to their plea. Don't blame them. Not every day you see someone old enough to be your father, on his knees begging you for help. MC, as calm as ever, notices the grand welcome given to them by the king and other council members. One of the students spoke up, urging the king to stand up. Gotta bet that's the class, the captain. Another spoke up, inquiring if there's way for them to go back to their world. Gotta bet again. That's one, the smart one. The saintess introduces herself as Igia, and there's a way for them to make it back to their world, explaining in a month's time the full moon will rise, allowing them to travel back to the world, while informing those whom wish not to join the war are free to stay inside the palace and leave when the night of the full moon comes. We shall be using our protagonist's name to address him throughout the story. Back to our story. Inori remarks that the atmosphere almost feels like they're tourists, keeping up his expressionless face as usual. Around the corner, two girls discuss if they were to return in a month's time. Doesn't that mean a whole month has passed by in their world? Overhearing their conversation, the saintess explains that the summoning doesn't affect the time in their world, as it would be like they never left. No need to worry. Still, with his firm face, questions the credibility of the situation, wondering what's the catch, as this sounds too good to be true. Saintess, speaking to the students, asks if anyone amongst them wishes to return back to their original world, as they won't stop them even if all of them wishes to do so. Students, still dazed, trying to find their stance in the situation, murmurs amongst themselves, trying to come up with the answer to the question thrown at them before they could conclude. The saintess, clenching her fist, tears dropping from her eyes, asks the students considered heroes to reconsider, as they're in desperate need of their help, requesting their help to save their kingdom from the Dark Lord. Inori, in his own corner, speaks to himself, noting this is the part where the hero with the main character energy steps forward to convince them to join the quest for glory. Inori sure has read a lot of manga. After a little bit of waiting, no one seems to step up to be the hero with the main character energy, just as Inori has envisioned. Seeing this, with an expressionless remarks to himself, there aren't anyone like that in his class. Just then the kid I had bet earlier of being the class captain spoke up, asking the king to give them some time to think over it. The king agrees to his demands, informing him they has a month to decide whether to return or forge the pact of a hero. As of today is a feast to celebrate their arrival. Excitement on hearing a feast for them. Even our expressionless Inori puts on a relieved smile, wondering to himself that he didn't expect to enjoy the other world's food so soon. Imagining table full of various food, wonders the ingredients the fantasy world uses in their dishes. Seems like nothing light ups our guy's mood except food. Still daydreaming, the same seal which had appeared in their classroom few minutes ago appeared below his feet, but took on the golden color this time. Looking down towards his feet, wonders if this isn't the magic circle from earlier. Putting his hands on his jaws, thought they're being moved to the ballroom with magic, as he wishes he had this back on Earth. With closed eye, a bright smile spread across his face, as he declares to himself how's he's looking forward to eating those dishes. Wish that would have happened to him, as one of his classmates call out to him, about to ask him why he's the only one inside the magic circle. Before he could react, the teleportation started with a bright light was teleported away. On opening his eyes, found himself in this same plane he was earlier with his classmates, as he wonders if this is déjà vu, hearing a familiar voice, which is welcoming the heroes to the world's rift, the pathway of souls. Turns to see same goddess he had met earlier. On seeing him, the goddess paused on her introduction. As she floats, Inori greets her once more, as she questions if he wasn't here few minutes ago, which he confirms to have been. The goddess sweat tickles down her face, wonders how this could have happened. Inori sat down, inquiring if that means he will be summoned to another place, which the goddess confirms as she descends down, placing her hand over his head, giving him another gift, as that's the rule. The goddess, heading back to wherever she came from, informs him that she herself has no idea of what's happening, leaving Inori to question her role as the goddess, as the teleportation circle forms below him. Opening his eyes, all bundled up as a lab experiment, cast his gaze on a weird-looking old man, wearing what seems like a lab coat, as he affirms that the summoning is complete. Just then, his assistant spoke up, suggesting they name him Subject 12, as he laughs maniacally, bending down and scrutinizing Inori, informs his assistant that he is feeling that this experimental project possesses an attack-type demon eye. On hearing their conversation, Inori wonders if that guy just called him a subject. The second summoning not looking quite good. Probably out of not having an experimental subject in quite some time. Laughed like kids whom just got a new plaything, as the head doctor ordered the commencement of the experiment, while making clear that the experiment will be done slowly and carefully. Inori, still bound, with a straight face, comments to himself, "Am dealing with Dr. Frankenstein and Igor now? Great. Just great." Drawing close with a scalpel in hand, explains it's said that humans summoned from other worlds receives a demon eye upon crossing over to their lands, just like the one on the eye of Inori, and how it's their job to prove that it's not just a myth. As he spreads his coat, showcasing his arsenal of torture weapons. This what made Inori realize that the demon eye was the gift he received from the goddess while being summoned to this world. The doctor, forming a magic circle, informs him it's hypnosis that will make him stay still, urging him to go to sleep. As he brings the magic circle closer, still laughing, realizes that the spell wasn't working. Inori explains to us that he used an advanced version of the spell. The doctor's assistant, in shock, tries to warn the doctor something is wrong with subject, as Inori explains that his right eye is the demon eye of vision and the left eye the demon eye of magic circles. The doctor turned to his assistant on hearing his words, only for him to inform him that the subject has two demon eyes and not one. Exclaiming in happiness they found a gold mine. Bringing out their torture tools, decided to proceed with the experiment without hypnotizing him, which his assistant gave the green light. On seeing this, "They're going to cut me open like this. That's torture, not an experiment," which I totally agree with him on. He tries to break free as he wonders how he can use demon eyes to escape. Seems the god of time is with him, as then a bright green magic circle lit up below him. As the two doctors look on in confusion, Inori teleported with a smirk on his face. Guess this is his first time he's happy on being teleported. Moving over to the plane, we see Inori with a straight face, looking as if he didn't just pass through a near-death experience. Goddess, on seeing him again, was shocked, welcoming him back, questioning why he's back, or probably he likes her. Inori is straight as ever, with a straight face, clarified that it just happened, asking her if truly she doesn't have an idea on what's going on. The goddess told him that he's the first going through this phenomenon and will look into it and inform him when he returns if he will. With that, a bright green magic circle, just like the one before, teleported him. Here is see a medieval castle, where he met a noble girl and a woman, whom appeared to look like an elf. Standing there, the elf lady praised the talent of the young lady as she managed to summon a humanoid monster on her first attempt, as her talent is unmatched. With a somewhat angry face, Inori inquired who she's calling a monster. The lady, bringing his hands close while holding a needle on the other hand, was about to form a pact of servitude when he was teleported away by a magic circle, leaving the elf lady and noble lady stressing over his sudden teleportation. Appearing on the magic plane, with a smirk, informed the goddess is back. The goddess, with a downcast expression, exclaimed again, probably thinking Itachi is playing with her, prompting Inori to inquire why he has continuously been summoned to different places, which the goddess explains. Summoning requires human with strong souls to be able to cross over to another world, and the issue stems from him possessing an extraordinary strong soul, making his situation a rare case. Inori, with looking up towards to the goddess with his black and yellow eyes, questions how, since he's an ordinary high schooler, not a saint. The goddess clarifies that the strength of a soul has nothing to do with one's disposition, but rather the strength of one's ego. Blessing him with another gift, informs him that his various summoning circles will stop once he's bound to a world by something, like the Pact of Hero. With that, we see a building. A lady holding a blue object informs someone of possessing the skill thief. Turns out the person possessing the skill of a thief is no one other than Inori. Seeing the lady, notes how cute she looks, looking down towards his hands, which is glowing purple. Moving closer with a hint of shyness, informs Inori of wanting to form a pact of the hero to bind his soul to their world, which Inori agrees with no hesitation, leaving me to wonder if he agrees because he wants the summons to stop or has other alternatives. Anyways, before the pact can be made, a dark magic circle appeared below him, teleporting him away, informing us of the various summoning he's gone through. The fifth one was summoned by black magic, which he received the corresponding blessing to. The sixth summon, being summoned by demons, he became a demon lord, but it didn't end as most of us thought it would. He was once again teleported to the plains, where the goddess remarks on how powerful he has gotten, also informing him of her feeling that this is his last summon, surprising Inori. While blessing him, combines all his abilities, informing him to check his status window. It will be visible with his right eye. We see a clear blue sky and a castle. We hear a voice welcoming the heroes. Opening his eyes, remarks he's back being a hero with a little grin on his face. Guess it's better than being a lab subject. Opening his eyes fully, sees he was summoned alongside 3 other people, questions their identity. We get introduced to the others, high schooler, Ryudo Shinzaki, 17 at age, as he wonders if he's in a castle. The second one, Tamaki Karasawa, 17 at age. The third one, Aoi Isegai, 16 at age. Seeing this, the king was left in thought. Speaking up, informs the heroes according to the lore, heroes are meant to be summoned in 3. Hearing this, Inori thought to himself, all was summoned at the same time, but observing how they called each other by name, meaning they must know each other. Realizing what's happening, lashes out on how he was summoned as a 4th wheel, prompting everyone to look at him as he grabs his head. The king, realizing what's going on, points out the other 3 as heroes, and him a regular person who was summoned alongside them, which the Inori confirms. Robbing his beards, the king recounts that such thing has never happened before. Before he can go any further, a lady addressing the hero introduces herself as the first princess, the one responsible of summoning them to their world, asking to be thanked for that, while looking down at them. I sure don't have a good feeling of this world. Continuing with her introduction, welcoming them to the kingdom of the rising sun. Whilst the king sat their hands on the jaw, making this not the first time something like this is happening. She continues that in their world, there are humans, demi-humans, and demons. The humans has been fighting demons for some time, and recently the demon lord founded a nation of demons and invaded human realms. That's when the human empire of Markard, our ally, requested aid from other countries asking them to summon heroes. But the only one capable of summoning heroes is a woman of royal lineage, pointing herself as someone capable of such, informing them of her plans to make an army consisting of summoned heroes, full of herself admitting how awesome it would be. Inori, on hearing what she said, sweat tickles down his face as he wonders how many she's going to summon, hoping she doesn't use them as cannon fodders. Addressing the heroes, for having the honor of representing the kingdom of the rising sun, she expects them to train the hardest, become the strongest, and defeat the demon lord. On hearing that, the three were shocked. While Inori thought how chessy the name of the kingdom is, I guess he's not bothered by whatever the first princess was spouting about. Just then, the first guy asked if there's a way for them to go back to their world. Before continuing the story, we shall address the three heroes as the first guy, the black-haired girl, and the pink-haired girl. Back to our story, the princess, not expecting to hear the question, paused for a second and replied there isn't a way to go back, shocking the students. Full of herself, comments that they should thank her instead, rather than asking her questions like that. As not everyone becomes heroes, anyone feeling like beating up this princess. Inori, hearing all this, comments to himself on how there's no way back and how he misses the Hygan kingdom. With a scarcitic face, the king ordered to proceed with the next step, commanding them to place their hands on the steel to confirm their heroic blessings. A man wearing a purple robe came forward holding what seemed to be the steel the king spoke about earlier. Inori, standing by the side, watches as the first guy places his hands on the steel, his hands touching the steel, a bright blue aura surrounding him, revealing his hero blessing as limit break. The black-haired girl received the blessing barrier conjunction. Pink-haired girls receives the blessing mana affinity. Getting to Inori, placing his hands on the steel, wonders what his blessing is going to be, receives the blessing of detection. Seeing this, the king remarks he has a blessing, guess that took him off the regular guy list. Inori, with a downcast look, seemingly not liking his blessing, as other possesses a combat skill, whereas his sounds like a utility skill made for a rogue. Guess he has forgotten his arsenal of skills. After receiving their skills, they were taken out to measure their physical and magical aptitude, where the three is doing well as they destroy their wooden training dummies with their various magical abilities. As for our Inori, he sucks at controlling his powers, with a zero growth potential. As the three others communicate happily, Inori, all tired up, complains on how he seems weaker than when he was back on Earth, noting how he's ashamed of being outclassed by girls. That's the pain no guy would want to go through. Nighttime came. Inori was invited to the first guy room to discuss their next step. Observing how the guy's room is bigger than his, as everyone gets to the room, the pink-haired girl was quick to point out Inori, as a regular guy, on how they are heroes and how he's not expected to be there. With a weird look, tries to bring to her notice that he's sitting right in front of her, which she clarifies not that he's underestimating him, but just that she's worried. With this statement, Inori sums up, she's the type that cares but pretends no to. First guy refutes, with the statement that his detection will come in handy later, prompting Inori to admit that the three heroes thinks differently of him. The first guy also admitting to Inori not possessing a combat abilities. Will need the help of the black-haired girl blessings barrier conjunction, which she admits she has no problem with. Starting the conversation, the pink-haired questions if they should stay here. The first guy, placing his hands on his jaws, admits they've been good to them so far, before he could say more. Something caught their eye, which they turned towards to see Inori with one of his fingers placed in front of his mouth, signaling them not to say a word, while holding a book, which he wrote down they're being spied on, and not to say something suspicious. Seeing that the three was shocked, as Inori smirks, commenting to himself, on how they can thank his blessing for that, and how he got the first win. Using his skill admits how useful it is, as it allows him to detect the presence of living beings through walls. As right now, he can sense that someone is eavesdropping on them behind the door. Acknowledging they dismissed all the maids tending to the room, meaning that the one outside is either a maid that came back or a stranger. Writing on the book again, informs the three that the back-haired girl should create a soundproof barrier, but he's not sure if the person listening on them will notice. With a nod, she started creating the barrier as others look on in surprise. About to reach her limit, informed them to hurry up, that she's new to this and can't hold it for long because she's new to this. The first guy all happily informed her how awesome her power is, as she laughs it off. Inori with a blank face wonders if they're flirting right now. The pink-haired girl all worked up laments on the reason why they would spy on them, which Inori responds that the blessing of heroes could pose a serious threat to the kingdom and the world, and how he's not surprised they're doing this, causing the pink-haired girl to lash out in anger, arguing on how unfair it is, as they were the one that summoned them without asking for their consent. Inori, as calm as ever, explains on how he thinks they're desperate, admitting he can't say with full confidence, since he knows nothing of this world. But there's been various indication that the kingdom is not doing well financially, explaining why he thinks do, as the king is exposing himself a lot, that it shouldn't be easy to have an audience with a king, and how the number of guards and subject is bit too low. Pink-haired pointing out that how she thought at first, but the food looked expensive and tasty too, causing Inori to point out the rooms, on how small and simple a room for a hero is, noting how it looks more like a footman's place. Inori, raising his index finger, informs the three others, depending on what happens, may have to leave the kingdom. And when that happens, they can use his detection to avoid guards and escape the place, but they have to find a way to return back to their world. Which the pink-haired girl comments on how the princess said there was no way home, though she might be hiding the method from them. Which Inori explains they might have done it, to prevent them the only hope for their kingdom from leaving, but also acknowledging how weak they are and how they know nothing, suggesting for them to go with the flow for the time being. Coming close towards Inori, as she stares at him strongly, leaving Inori to wonder what she's trying to do. Questions why his left eye is yellow. This question caused him to cover his eyes, as he laments to himself on how he totally forgot about his non-matching eyes. This caused everyone's attention to be on him, making him look suspicious, just as the room was about to get awkward. The first guy, speaking to the pink-haired girl, informs her that everyone has a secret they want to hide, and she should cut him some break, leading to relief from Inori's side. Back to his room, wonders what skills the demon eyes gave him, recalling what the goddess about the status window. Thinking about it, a bright green interface containing his stats and name popped up. Seeing the numbers, comments how high they seem, but can't tell how good they are because he doesn't know the average. Recalling earlier on the aptitude test, wonders how he was so bad with these stats. Brushing that aside, decides to take a look at his skills. Looking over to his skill set was Demon Eye of Sight, Demon Eye of Magic Circles, Advanced Skill, Thief, Black Magic, and Detection, which on using detects someone eavesdropping on his room, remarking on how he has gained many of those skills through all the summons he has gone through. Recalling his third summon, looked to his status window, which read Vampire. Opening his mouth and seeing his fangs, acknowledges how that summon turned him into a demonic vampire. In other words, a humanoid monster. Looking over to his status window once again, that reads Sun God Scorn, explaining the title as the one who betrayed the gods. The creatures of the night will have their stats reduced and skills limited by 90% during the day. On seeing all this, realizes this is what caused all the incident that happened earlier today, explaining on how he felt weak and disoriented during the trial because of the sunlight, explaining more on how he hated dinner because the dish contained garlic, and also looking back on when he first met the girls, explains on how he was more drawn to the blood flowing under their necks and skin, not their looks. Resting on his legs, remarks on how he failed to see what's happening with himself, as he was busy scanning the outside with detection, noting how late he was to realize he had odd eyes and he had become a vampire. Decided to use this chance to learn more about himself and start digging into each skill. Starting with the detection skill, explains how the skill allows him to sense the activity of the creatures around him, within a recognized range. Grabbing the candle beside him, explains the skill craft weapon, explaining how it uses mana to create weapons from any material. As he transforms the candle to a dagger, looking over to his demon eye of vision. Status window lists its ability: superhuman visual, acuity, perfect measurement, farsight, microsight, infravision, identity, clairvoyance, true sight, X-ray vision, image replay, and outer vision. That's sure a lot of ability for one eye. Noting how everything is sight-related, looking over to his left yellow eyes, admitting he has no clue on how it works. Status Windows explains it allows its user to move a magic circle they've seen into their pupil and activate it, remarking on how it doesn't make any sense, placing his hands on his jaws as he returns the dagger back to its original form, commenting how he will come back to them once he has learned this world magic. Looking over to Status Window notes how he still has a lot of skills he knows nothing about. Showing his fangs sees how straightforward the description of his skill, Drain Blood, is. In his imagination, explains if the user of the skill drains someone of their blood, the victim turns into a ghoul. And if the victim is a virgin, the user may feed victim vampiric blood, turning them into his vampire servants. As he imagines himself with an evil smile, comments on how he can turn the dead into a farmer using his blood. Looking over to the status window, speaks on how monstrous he is, as the skill still has a lot to it. If the user should drain all the blood of the victim, they can gain the victim memories and skills. As he prepares to go sleep, comments on how he can do all this at night, clasping his hands remarks on how good it feels to be powerful. But first, decided to get used to the body of this world. The following day, the four of them stands in a row, as a lady introduces herself as the Knight Commander of the Kingdom of the Rising Sun, and also their physical combat instructor. Inori, looking over to her, comments on how the Knight Commander of a medieval fantasy kingdom is woman, shrugging it off as he guesses anything is possible in this world, wondering if she's actually good or all the kingdom can afford. The Knight Commander, addressing the ladies, informs them though they're magic users, it doesn't mean they are exempted from learning the basics. Is that clear? Which the ladies affirmed with an audible yes ma'am. Crossing her arms, speaks to them, informing them on how they would normally start with strength training. But looking at them, it doesn't seem they need it. We get to see their status window. The fist guy reads, HP, 1023 out of 1024, MP, 1056 out of 1056, Strength, 1523, Vitality, 1249, Dexterity, 1115, Agility, 1098, Intelligent, 1078, Blessing, Limit Break, Title, None. The pink-haired girl status read, HP, 895 out of 896, Mana, 8,962 out of 8,962, Strength, 762, Vitality, 853, Dexterity, 1508, Agility, 756, Intelligent, 3568, Blessing, Mana Affinity, Title, None. Black-haired girl, HP 562, Mana, 6,082 out of 6,082, Strength, 563, Vitality, 1432, Dexterity, 874, Agility, 593, Intelligent, 2430, Blessing, Barrier Conjuration, Title, None. Seeing all those stats, Inori concludes on how they're basically metahumans. Seems he has forgotten his own stats. Commander, calling on the three, informs them on how they will choose their specialization after learning the basics. As of Inori, he will undergo an intense physical training until he meets up with the military standards. Looking all tired up as he breathes heavily, complains on how he really can't sleep and how it's daytime. As a vampire, this is basically a nightmare. With a stern face, the commander informs him on how she will personally see that he succeeds. Sweating all over, laments how dizzy he is, and with this rate, he doubts he will even be able to escape when the time comes. Just then, a loud greeting was heard across the training field, prompting Inori to look up, complaining on how is that annoying princess again. Looking closer, wonders who the person accompanying the princess is. Noticing how she's being accompanied by maids, concludes on how she must also be a member of the royal family. Scrutinizing her, notices her stiffness and how fake her smile looks. The commander, calling out Her Highness, expresses her surprise, as she did not expect her to visit them. Inori, taking this opportunity to rest, comments on how she's a princess too. The new princess, all smiling, tells her to be at ease, as she was just here to observe the heroes' training. The first princess, still as proud as ever, shouts to the heroes, informing them on how they should consider themselves honored, as she has allocated her precious time to see their first steps of their journey in person. Inori, resting, smirks as he figured she would say something like that. While resting, the second princess, walking to him, leans down, as she introduces herself as the second princess of the Kingdom of Rising Sun, and how it's a pleasure to meet him, Sir Inori Takafuji, informing him on how she's his daytime teacher, as he looks at her in total confusion. Coming over to what seemed to be a library, as the second princess explains on how he will be taught by the commander in the morning and will be taught by her in the afternoon. Looking over to her, laments over how awkward it feels, as he labels himself the black sheep of the group. As he explains, the three others is attending the first princess class, recounting on how the first princess described him as someone who's not a hero, and he should know his place. Placing his hands on his jaws, comments on how he will make her regret it someday. The second princess, on starting the lesson, was asked a question by Inori. With a smile, informs him to go ahead with his question. Seizing the opportunity, asks, if you are the second princess, then that means she's younger than the first princess. With a smile, informs him that it is the other way round. Actually, she was the first princess, but her sister was made the crown princess for some complicated reasons. Closing his eyes, as he returns his focus to the class, thought to himself, how curious he is about the succession affair. But he should mind his business for now. Placing his hands on his jaws, explains on according to the second princess, the Kingdom of the Rising Sun was founded by Sorceress, one of the heroes, whom defeated the first demon lord, as she was referred to many as witch. The kingdom now revolves around the witch religion, traditionally placing women at his center, and how for generations, the queen has been crowned the monarch, explaining deeper how the kings are the rulers, but the queens can take their power away through divorce. Nice. Even in the fantasy world, the power of divorce hasn't changed. Talking on how the second princess has taught him the fundamental of the kingdom's history and magic. Dozing off, remarks on boring the class has been. During nighttime, we see Inori, on his bed, leg crossed, as he flips across pages, talking about how the princess would teach him the theories of magic tomorrow and practical magic the day after. Still flipping through the pages, comments on her lending him the book of basic magic, recalling earlier today on how fake her smile is, even though he slept through her class, and suddenly requests for the book. He could tell that wasn't a happy smile, shrugging it off. Remarks on how he already has what he need to conduct new experiments, looking down at the magic circle drawn in the book. Activating his left eye, using of his skills, looks at the magic circle, saves it in the eye, tries to activate it, but doesn't work. Closing the book, thought on how he has tried out other magic circles, but none of them work. Seeming to understood something, activated his right eye, wonders what happens when he uses it. Looking to the book and ink beside his desk, taking it as he draws a magic circle, commenting on how he could picture it clearly. The advanced hypnosis magic the doctor had tried on him during one of his previous summons, speaking on how it's normally impossible to draw such a complex pattern from memory, but thanks to his demon eye of vision and its memorize image skill, completes the drawing, using his left eye to scan it, feels something different, questioning himself if the skill worked. Picking up and ringing a bell, decides to test if he could use it now. A maid steps, inquiring on how she can help him. Sitting up, Inori requests a favor from her, the lady trying to understand what the favor could possibly be. Inori activates his left eye, showing the magic circle he had scanned earlier. On seeing what's happening, couldn't react fast, as she was caught up on the spell, as the lady wore a blank expression. Inori, waving his hand over her face, wonders if it worked as he decides to ask her something random to check. Making up his mind, asks the lady the color she's wearing beneath, which she responds with the color back. Activating his left eye and using the X-ray vision skill, confirms she's telling the truth. Thinking on how the advanced spell worked with the demon eye of circles. Recalls that the magic spell were from the world he received those eyes from. Wonders if the demon eye can only store the magic he saw in that world. Don't forget to subscribe for the continuation of all juicy contents.